Thank you for joining us today at Eat, Read, Sleep, where we summarize books to save you time and hopefully give you a different or new insight. My name is Kalina, and let me welcome you guys to my lovely co-host.
Hello everyone, I'm Tapis, and we're going to have a great time today going over the book summary for The Infinite Game by Simon Sinek. A New York Times best-selling author, Sinek has also written well-known books that you may have come across, like Start with the Why and Eaters Eat Last.
That's right. I can't wait to add those other books to our summary list. For now, let's get started with The Infinite Game. To ask what is best for me is finite thinking. To ask what is best for us is infinite thinking. Sinek starts the book introducing this concept of infinite games that he actually got from another book written by a Professor James Carse. Sinek realized that all around us are infinite games. When there are at least two players, a game exists. And there are two types of games, finite games and infinite games. So let's take a look at the difference. In finite games, we know who the players are at all times. The rules are fixed, there's an agreed upon objection, and there's a clear beginning, middle, and end. An example would be a game of football. We have known players, they wear identifiable jerseys, there's rules and there's referees that enforce these rules, and everyone agrees on a point system to identify who the winner is. At the end of a game, or at the end of a set period of time, the game's over, everyone goes home. In infinite games, on the other hand, you have known and unknown players. And these players can come and go at any time. There's no exact agreed upon rules, even though there are general governed laws for conduct. The objection is primarily to keep playing and keep going. Infinite games have infinite time horizons. There's no finish line. This is a journey. It is not an event.
What does this mean? In Infinite Game, there are no winners. Examples would be a marriage, friendship, education, careers, and even businesses. And why do we need to know all this? Well, in a world where both games are played, it's important to make sure you're playing the right game. In a finite game, you need to just play to win. In an infinite game, you need to have the infinite mindset to continue to play. A finite mindset in an infinite game is what Simon Sinek calls determined. Unfortunately, as you look at the leaders around us, most of us speak as if they don't know what game they're playing. Business, you hear leaders talking about winning or beating their competition. They aim to be the best or number one. What these business leaders fail to realize is that in business, there is no finish line. It's an infinite game. And without the end, all these goals are impossible.
That's right. And not only is it impossible, it leads to all kinds of problems. You see too often in companies the decline of trust, decline of cooperation and innovation. There's tunnel vision results, and there's a lot of excessive focus on the urgent at the expense of the important. We also see shying away from unknown possibilities and responding only to known factors.
So how do you lead with the infinite mindset? First, Simon says there are three factors to consider when we want to lead. We don't get to choose whether the game is finite or infinite. We do get to choose to join the game or not. And if we choose to join the game, we also get to choose to play a finite or infinite mindset. And Sinek reminds us that we are more likely to survive and thrive if we play in the game we are in. After you have decided to have an infinite mindset, there are 5 essential practices that you must do. First, advance a just cause. 2, build a trusting team. 3, study your worthy rivals. 4, prepare for existential flexibility. And 5, demonstrate courage to lead. But first, you must remember that you need all of these standards to have the infinite mindset. Not having just one will slip you back into the finite mindset.
Sounds like a plan. Let's get started with advancing a just cause. A just cause is to advance something bigger than ourselves or our organizations. Sinek says that any leader who wishes to lead in the infinite game must have a crystal clear just cause. This is a specific vision of a future state that does not yet exist. A future state so appealing that people are willing to make sacrifices in order to advance towards that vision. Now, a just cause is not the same as your why. A why comes from the past. It's a statement of who you are. A just cause is about the future and defines where you are going. It is the just cause that we are working to advance that gives our work and our lives meaning.
To write a just cause, it must be for something, affirmative and optimistic, what we stand for versus what we are against, inclusive, open to all those who like to contribute, and should make everyone want to contribute. 3, service-oriented, for the primary benefit of others, not what you can gain from others. Resilient, able to endure political, technological, and cultural change, an idea that will last forever. And lastly, idealistic, big, bold, and ultimately unachievable, in the sense that no matter how much you achieve it, it feels like there's more to go after. Once you have your cause, Seneca urges everyone to write it down. A written cause works like a compass. So in the absence of a leader, the written just cause will continue to live on. However, a word of caution. Seneca warns us not to suffer from cause blindness. This is when we become so wrapped up in our cause or so wrapped up in the wrongness of other players' cause that we fail to recognize the strengths of theirs and the weaknesses of ours. Cause blindness blunts humility and exaggerates arrogance. This will lead to a stunted innovation and reduces flexibility that we need to play for the long game.
Trusting teams is the second essential practice. Let's look at the difference between a group of people who work together versus a group of people who trust each other. In a group of people who work together, relationships are mostly transactional and based on a mutual desire just to get things done. It doesn't mean we have to like the people we work with or even like our job for that matter. It's not uncommon to have people feel forced to lie, hide, and fake their way when people simply work together. But in a group of people who trust each other, they feel safe to express vulnerability, to admit to mistakes, be honest about shortfalls, to ask for help. There is a strong will and intrinsic motivation. And that is what trust means. Trust is a feeling. It cannot be demanded of another person, and it's developed over time in the safety of vulnerability. In some organizations, you see a disconnect of feelings and emotions. This is the finite way of thinking. Cynic says feelings are the heart of trusting teams, and trusting teams, it turns out, are the healthiest and highest performing kind of teams. One example that he goes over in the book is how one gets to become a Navy SEAL, part of one of the highest performing teams in the world. It turns out that between performance and trust is always prioritized before performance for a SEAL. So why do we still think performance matters in a business?
Hey, I love that example. Now let's turn the page and look at the third essential for infinite mindset: worthy rival. In an infinite game, you need to stop thinking of other players as competitors to be beaten and start thinking them as worthy rivals who can help you become a better player. Interesting, right? The definition of a worthy rival is another player in the game who is worthy of comparison to you. It could be a competitor, an enemy, peers, or any collaborator. And what's important to acknowledge is that they do something better than you. It's something that you can learn from. For example, they make a better product, command better loyalty, are better overall leaders. Worthy rivals can help us get better at what we do and clear on why we do it. For example, a worthy rival for Apple can be Microsoft, because although Apple may be considered the leading brand between the two, it's important that Apple continues to have an innovative push because of Microsoft. While traditional competition forces us to take an attitude of winning, worthy rival inspires us to take on an attitude of improvement. Winning is an outcome, finite mindset. Improvement is a process, an infinite mindset.
Fourth is preparing for existential flexibility. This is the capacity to start an extreme disruption to a business model in order to advance your cause further. In other words, an infinite-minded player will flex for the purpose of the cause, even if it disrupts the existing certainty. Existential flexibility isn't something that exists immediately. A company must fully be formed, functioning, and playing offense. Then, when there's a cue, the infinite leader flexes and changes its course or plans, and it's clear to all who believe in the cause why this has to happen. To a finite leader, this is risking certainty of a profitable path due to fear of the uncertain alternative path. But to an infinite leader, staying on the current path is the bigger risk. Sometimes, when visionary leaders make an existential flex, to the outside world, it appears they can predict the future, but they can't. They do, however, operate with a clear and fixed vision of a future state that does not exist. Their just cause. And they constantly scan for ideas, opportunities, or technologies that help them advance toward that vision. Kodak is a film company with name recognition. At the time, Kodak refused to jump at the idea of the digital camera. They were focused only on their top line and feared their current market would suffer. 10 years later, their market share reduced and they went from employing 120,000 employees to merely 6,000 employees. Had they stuck to their just cause, they would have flexed at the opportunity to provide photography to the masses and would continue to lead as a dominant company.
And lastly, we have the courage to lead. This is a willingness to take risks for the good of the unknown future. These risks may cost money or job security, but it takes courage to lead, to operate to a standard that is higher than the law to a standard of ethics. When we feel pressured to do things that violate the ethical code, it takes courage to lead, to speak up, and stand up. Now, courage isn't just about actions. It's the willingness to completely change our perception of how the world works. For example, in 2014, CVS Caremark removed tobacco-related products from all of the 2,800 stores. It's a decision that could cost the company $2 billion per year in lost revenue. They did this even though they had no competitive pressure to do so. Not only was this courageous move met with overwhelming support from the public, their nicotine patches sales increased by 4%. And the total impact that CVS had was a reduction in the cigarette industry by 95 million fewer packs sold in just the first 8 months. Meanwhile, their worthy rivals made no such leap, and their lack of courage is obvious in today's lower market share. So how do you find the courage to lead? Sounds kind of scary, right? Well, you can wait for a life-altering experience that shakes you to your core and challenges the way you see the world. In fact, that's how many great leaders become to be infinite-minded. Or you can be a little bit more proactive and in control. You can find a just cause that inspires you. Surround yourself with others who share the common cause, people you trust and even don't trust. Identify a rival worthy of comparison that will push you to consistently improve, and remind yourself that you are more committed to the cause than any particular path or strategy you are currently on. Just look at CVS. They proactively followed their just cause, showed existential flexibility, and led with courage. Seneca states that it takes no courage to keep a finite mindset.
All right, to wrap it all up, Seneca sends us off with one last reminder. Our lives are finite, but life is infinite. After all, there is no winner of life. In any other game, we get choices. We decide if we want to play, and we decide how we want to play. In the game of life, though, we only get one choice. Once we are born, we are players. The only choice we get is if we want to play with a finite mindset or an infinite mindset. What will you choose? And that is The Infinite Game by the Simon Sinek. Thank you all for joining us today. We hope you come back to hang out with us on this orange couch during our deep dive discussion format. Help us out by liking this video and adding comments below so that we can grow. And make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on any other great reads. Thank you guys. Bye. Let's get started with the infinite game. To ask what is best for me, this is going so fast, I don't know. Advance towards that vision. And I do like the cha-cha dance around. What are you doing? Fourth is preparing for Okay. Fourth is preparing for existential what's happening?
There is no finish line. In an infinite game, there is no finish line. In an infinite game, and with proud of myself for saying existential on the first try.
All right, to wrap it all up, Seneca sends us off with, okay, I don't like that. All right. No, I don't like that one. All right.
Okay, Matthew, bye.
All right. All right, to wrap it all up, Seneca.